Welcome to Coronavirus The Rundown. I'm Usher Qureshi. Each day we showcase how Americans are taking on coronavirus. We also break down the headlines. Today, talks of Phase 4 of HELP. The White House is holding informal discussions with lawmakers about what's next for coronavirus relief. Conference calls start this week. White House leaders say there will be no formal talks until there's more data on how reopening impacts the economy.
I think that many people would like to just pause for a moment and take a look at the economic impact of this massive assistance program.
Still, Democrats in the House could bring forward a new relief bill this week. It's expected to include help for people and governments. The bill isn't expected to go far. An enzyme could be why coronavirus seems to impact men more than women. A new study found men have higher levels of ACE2 receptors in their blood, and that ACE2 helps coronavirus infect new cells. Researchers say it could explain why there seem to be more cases and deaths in men. They also found taking ACE inhibitor drugs had no impact on a person's risk. More than 10,000 people are volunteering to purposely get coronavirus. They're part of a human challenge trial. It's an ethically controversial way to test vaccines. The goal is to speed up development of an effective and safe vaccine, which could help speed up a return to normalcy. Many experts say developing a vaccine is key to moving forward. Elisa Nieves looks at why creating the vaccine is about more than the virus.
In the middle of the 20th century, we saw the world focus in on the space race.
It came in peace for all mankind.
Some would say right now, the world is focused on another important race, one for the COVID-19 vaccine.
What we have is a race between the U.S. and China in some respects. This has become, in recent weeks, a strategic confrontation, a strategic competition.
Stephen Morrison is with the Center for Strategic and International Studies. He directs its Global Health Policy Division.
Right now, there's about 90 vaccine candidates that are in development. 7 of the 90 are now in active field trials. 4 are in China. 3 are outside of China.
While most of the world has joined together in a pact to collaborate on a vaccine, the 2 most powerful countries in the world are working independently. China has its scientists working in Wuhan, in Beijing, and the White House announcing recently the U.S.'s own initiative called Operation Warp Speed.
I don't think it's surprising that governments, the most powerful governments in particular, are saying, this is too important to us to leave in the hands of others.
The country that develops a vaccine could have an added bonus of undoing the economic downturn in its respective country faster, since the vaccine could be monetized.
The problem, though, is that we have to have some form of collaboration. The go-it-alone logic doesn't work in terms of the scientific enterprise of developing a vaccine. We have to have some form of collaboration outside of ourselves in order to understand what is happening in the virus.
The added problem in this race is the difference of what is at stake this time around.
Power and prestige was a factor in the space race. Today, in the midst of this crisis, the open question is, will China emerge stronger and more hegemonic? Will the United States be able to rebound and recover? So it's getting wrapped up in who will emerge on the other side of this crisis as the dominant power.
I think I hear you saying the concern is that bravado may cost lives in terms of the time it will take to actually come up with a cure, or, the collaboration that's not going to happen to have the most effective cure out there.
Right. This is a planetary crisis. It's a planetary human crisis. It's a planetary economic crisis. The notion that you can come up with a narrow solution that's grounded in the sovereign interests of a single country doesn't speak to the gravity and scope of this crisis.
I'm Alicia Nieves reporting.
Researchers are now combining artificial intelligence with CT scans to detect coronavirus. The FDA has just given approval to a startup called ADOC to start using this technology. After looking at CT scans of the lungs, radiologists can flag ones that need further review. This type of testing is meant to diagnose patients who were screened for another condition and may have coronavirus. Well, scientists have developed a wearable device that can spot coronavirus symptoms before a person does. The wireless sensor monitors coughs, fever, and breathing. The hope is that the data can help physicians better understand and treat the deadly disease. It looks like a small Band-Aid, but researchers say this little silicone patch can detect COVID-19 symptoms and record the associated data right to your smartphone or tablet.
It's a fully wireless, battery-operated device that can communicate to any standard Bluetooth-enabled consumer gadget.
The wireless rechargeable battery-operated device sits just below the suprasternal notch at the base of the throat. From that location, it monitors coughing intensity, respiratory sounds, heart rate, and body temperature.
It's really that subtle motion of the surface of the skin. It's almost like a stethoscope is the way you could think about it, but fully digital and wireless in its operation and continuous in terms of the data collection.
It can be worn 24/7 and produce continuous streams of data using artificial intelligence. All of that data transmitted wirelessly to a HIPAA-protected cloud.
We can determine not only when a cough occurs, but whether that cough is a dry cough or a wet cough, or whether you're having coughing fits.
Scientists say the real-time data streaming from patients can give insights into their health not currently being captured or analyzed by traditional monitoring systems. Another important feature, decontamination.
Because it's entirely enclosed without any switches or data ports or any kind of openings, it allows us to do very rigorous sterilization. So we immerse these devices in hot alcohol.
One thing it cannot do is measure blood oxygenation levels, a potentially important early indicator of the disease. But they say they plan to add that capability to the next round of devices. The ultimate goal is to be able to catch COVID-19 symptoms early, better understand its onset and progression, and hopefully save lives.
What we've been able to do is create very thin, lightweight, soft device platforms that allow mounting on this very sensitive region of the body in a way that's essentially physically imperceptible. So you put it on and you kind of forget that it's there.
The next step is to find manufacturing partners to scale up production of the device. Professor Rogers says depending on volume, it could cost less than $100 per device. Coronavirus is impacting the country's food safety system. There have been fewer food inspections, foodborne illness investigations, and recalls since the virus got to the U.S. That's according to a USA Today investigation. Experts say while that increased risk, there's no evidence so far it has caused any health issues. The majority of American planes are grounded right now. New numbers show 51% of the U.S. airline fleet is sitting idle. That means those planes haven't flown in at least a week. An estimated 73% of domestic flights and 94% of international flights are currently canceled. Well, car crashes are up in some places, and so are injuries from them. We ask experts why they think it's happening. And as more people turn to virtual doctor visits, we ask, is privacy at risk?
Transitions for helping me grow my hair back.
The newest numbers show nearly 15% of Americans are unemployed right now. Chris Conti has some advice for job seekers as the nation tries to get back to work.
It's unbelievably stressful.
As a producer in Los Angeles, Greg Morrison is more familiar than most with being in between jobs. But this is different.
I think the hardest part about being unemployed right now, there's only so much you can do, and the frustration of that drives you crazy.
Both Greg and his girlfriend are among the millions out of work because of the pandemic. This 33-year-old is constantly searching for jobs that don't exist.
You have to do something to keep yourself sane in these times. I have to go to bed every night knowing that I tried to get a job.
But experts say what Greg is doing is actually the best option, because when the job market does open back up, he'll be poised for success.
You want to be down in the dumps about it, and you want to be stressed about it, but then everybody else is going through the same thing.
I think the biggest thing is to know that everything happens for a reason. Having that mindset leads you to better opportunities.
That's Peter Swan. He's a recruiter for WorkHuman. He understands losing your job can be incredibly stressful, but he also says to keep an open mind.
So I think it really starts with the mindset, meaning how do we look at this situation and grasp the situation to understand that perhaps this is a way to rewrite your story moving forward.
Some tips he has for job searchers. Be flexible. Maybe consider an industry you never thought of. Practice interviewing, even if it's just at home with a spouse or roommate. Think of stories. Use this downtime to come up with stories to share in an interview. Keep networking. It will be vital when companies start hiring again. As for jobs that may return first, analysts think industries with low person-to-person contact will be high on the list. Jobs connected to large sporting events, concerts, conferences, much lower.
Just remember that you will get through this, and we, will get through this as well.
No matter how few jobs there are being posted on anything, or no matter how many people I talk to that say, sorry, buddy, we're not hiring right now, it does not stop me one bit.
As the country rebounds, attitude will be everything. In Boston, I'm Chris Conti reporting.
Traffic experts are learning more about how stay-at-home orders affect drivers. Across the country, they noticed a decline in traffic starting around mid-March. However, some places they're seeing more crashes. In Austin, Texas, data from the city's transportation department shows a 20% increase in crashes with serious injuries. This is despite a 50% decrease in traffic. City officials believe it may be because people were driving at higher speeds. In Virginia, the DMV Highway Safety Office says crashes increased by 80% since the state governor issued a stay-at-home order. The number of crashes has also increased since this time last year. Transportation experts at Texas A&M say when there are fewer cars on the road, drivers may feel less constrained and may feel more like they have more freedom to drive as they want.
Even though there are less people on the road, your inclination may be, I can do things, I can text, I can not pay attention, I don't have to pay as much attention. We have a lot of single vehicle crashes in this country. It's almost half of our problem.
However, this hasn't been proven yet. Something that has been proven, though, is that faster speeds tend to correlate with more severe injuries.
There's no question that speed has a relationship on the severity of crashes. There is some evidence to suggest that at higher speeds, maybe the reaction time, you don't have as much time to react to a particular incident.
One thing to note is that we haven't been seeing the same trends everywhere. In California, for example, experts at UC Davis report they've seen a 50% reduction in injury, crashes, and deaths. In Kansas, the Department of Transportation says it expects to see a drop in injury crashes during this time. Well, telehealth appointments are becoming more common right now, but is our privacy and personal data more exposed as we dive deeper into digital medicine? Here's Bo Evans.
If you've had a doctor's appointment in the last 2 months and it hasn't been related to coronavirus, it probably took place over a video chat.
Unprecedented move by healthcare.
I think that we are seeing a sea change that won't be rolled back.
Telehealth is defined as the use of electronic information and telecommunications technology to support long-distance clinical health care. In most cases, a video call between you and your doctor, or getting your test results online. A recent report estimates telehealth will increase 80% in 2020 due to the coronavirus. Jordan Bazinski works for Codaviti, a healthcare analytics company.
Convenience that it brings, if you think of a working parent who has a sick child being able to get a quick consult with a physician, that's a game changer for your typical American, for a normal situation over the course of one's life accessing healthcare.
But more people using telehealth means more opportunities for private health data to be stolen. Just let Jaban Kuntia explain some of the bad things that could happen to you.
Last year or something around that, 6 million health records were compromised or stolen, and 10 to 15% of health systems were attacked. They can play several roles in terms of attacking the individual, making their life miserable all the way, ransomware and blackmailing a big health system and trying to make money out of that.
Kuntia says the responsibility of the security of your personal data lies mostly with your healthcare provider.
They are not prepared. They should be prepared more. First thing is online portals and access points should be integrated with secure EHRs and more secure. Create some sort of secure login, monitoring, and intelligence practices. Do multi-layer verification. These are normal things that any provider has to do.
Kantia suggests providers have a team, either in-house or outsourced, that is dedicated to maintaining security of their systems. Most agree, keeping data safe will become a balancing act between access and security.
What do we think about the trade-offs between access and care, privacy, in times of crisis in particular?
I'm Bo Evans reporting.
Young people are having strokes while fighting coronavirus, and researchers are trying to figure out why. The clues they have so far about why it's happening.
Quote and save up to 20% on auto and home.
Welcome back. Researchers are noticing a concerning number of young people having strokes after having coronavirus. Lindsay Boach talked to researchers who think they're starting to understand why.
As we kind of pull apart the COVID genome and try to understand how the COVID particle infects humans, then I think we'll understand more mechanistically of how that's happening.
Dr. Michael Makeley is a neurologist at Craig Hospital in Denver, Colorado. He says he and his colleagues are now treating stroke patients who previously tested positive for COVID-19.
The patients that I'm taking care of right now are young people. There are some risk factors that they had for stroke, and cerebral vascular disease is certainly worrisome for perhaps a connection to this serious COVID infection that they had and have cleared.
Dr. Makeley says this is still a very new field of research, as COVID-19 is still relatively new in the U.S. Coronavirus is mostly thought of as a respiratory disease affecting the lungs. But as medical centers look at their COVID patients and the prevalence of stroke, they're finding the disease can also impact our blood.
There are suggestions that COVID itself may lead to what we call a hypercoagulable state. So people become more likely to have clots form. And that could be in the legs, that could be in the lungs, and it could be in the brain.
And the smaller organs, like the kidneys and liver. Dr. Makeley says the patients he's treating each had a large clot in their leg in addition to their stroke, which he says supports the theory of a coagulation issue with the virus.
And these couple patients were wondering if this is this kind of post-COVID aftermath, this surviving COVID, but they have this, profound neurologic deficit.
For now, he says they're called cryptogenic strokes, meaning they just don't understand the reasons behind it. I'm Lindsay Boach reporting.
A high school student making sure people on the front lines get the PPE they need. The international effort this teen is organizing.
Keller and Keller.
Welcome back. We like to end the rundown with stories that remind us there's good going on around us. Today, it's the high schooler who's organizing a drive to get masks to those on the front lines. Jiaho Gua is a junior at Mason High School near Cincinnati. He started a fundraiser in January to help China fight coronavirus, but when it got to the U.S., he switched gears. Now, he and his classmates team up with approved manufacturers in China to buy masks and ship them here.
Just because the state is starting to reopen, that doesn't mean now's the time to stop. Now's the time that, we intensify our efforts in order to ensure that we don't see a massive rebound of the virus.
So far, they've bought $12,000 to donate to healthcare employees and nonprofits. The teen says he has a new appreciation and passion for the medical community. He says that may influence his eventual career path. Well, that's all the time we have today for Coronavirus, The Rundown. We'll see you next time. I'm Usher Qureshi. Thanks for joining us.